Okay, so who in here has flown in an airplane before? Just about half the people in here. Well, let me tell you about the pilots who fly the airplanes, either Air Force or airlines. It took a lot of hard work for those guys to get to where they are today to pilot those airplanes. And it starts at the basics of where you are right now. When I was a little boy, I used to make model airplanes. I wanted to be a pilot one day. My first flight was in an airline back when I was about 10 years old, which is about your age, right? Are you guys about 10 years old? All right. And from that point on, I had that in my mind that I wanted to be a pilot. And it doesn't matter what you want to be in life, either if you want to be a pilot or a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman or whatever you desire in life to be, it starts when you're in school at your age now. You start working on the basics of English and math and science. The stuff I use when I fly, I use a lot of math. I have to calculate numbers fast inside my brain, as fast as I can divide and add and subtract and multiply. And it all started when I was at your age in school, learning how to do math and learn different things about science. And also learning how to communicate, either through English, learning how to speak well. And so it all starts when you're this age. Another thing, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of determination for anything that you want to do in life. And so those are just some finer points to make what I believe it takes to make it in life. The last point is staying off drugs. If you've ever taken any kind of drugs in your whole life, the Air Force will not accept you to fly for them, or even be a maintenance person or any type of ground person in the Air Force. The same with a lot of businesses, the airlines. You can't have ever taken drugs or anything like that. Also, they look at your record. If you've ever had a criminal record, have been arrested, that kind of stuff's going to hurt you down the road. So the bottom line is to stay straight and work hard in school, and you'll make it in life, whatever you want to be. I'm 32 years old. I've been flying airplanes for 10 years, and I probably started flying when you guys, before you were born. And time goes by real quick, because I can remember when I was in the 4th grade. And I understand you guys have been studying maps and stuff like that. Is that true?
I know Mr. Brown's was in 5th grade.
I remember when I was in the 4th grade, I made a map of the United States and had different colors and stuff in it. And it seems like it was just a few years ago, but time really flies by. So like I said, working on the basics of learning how to use maps and arithmetic, and learning how to speak English and write well. I've got some maps in the back. When we get through in here, take a look at those. Those are just some of the maps that we might use as pilots. There's a whole variety of them out there. There's hundreds of different types of maps and charts. And so take a look at that. I've also got some pictures of flying F-16s inside a catalog here that I have up front, which you can look at afterwards. Just briefly, a quick thing about what you just saw there. Those were F-16s. Just about all of the videotape were F-16s. Some of them were part of a gun camera film. As you saw some of the black and white photos, you might have seen an airplane in front of them. The F-16 is a fighter jet, so that's exactly the definition of it. It's a fighter. It's made to fight. It's made to go out and drop bombs or shoot missiles and help protect the United States from the enemy. As you know, the United States has airplanes deployed throughout the world today, in Korea, they have them in Saudi Arabia, throughout Europe, and of course in the United States. And those are used to, as a show of force to keep freedom throughout the world. You don't know how lucky you are to be living where you are right now. I've traveled throughout the world and I've seen a lot of poverty and a lot of war. We're still flying missions over Iraq. We're flying missions over Bosnia. and it's a war going on down there, and little kids and people are not living a free life as you are here in Hogansville. So that's the whole purpose behind fighter jets and troops and so forth in the defense establishment of the United States. The F-16 is a single-seat, single-engine airplane, so it's piloted by one person. It's got one engine, so if you lose your engine, you've got no choice except to eject. The airplane has an ejection seat that is it's got a rocket underneath it. So if you pull the handle between your legs, this rocket's going to fire and it's going to shoot you up into the air. And then as you're coming down, a parachute opens and you land safely, hopefully. It carries all different types of munitions, bombs. It has a gun, 20mm gun. It shoots 6,000 rounds per minute. Can you imagine that? 6,000 rounds? I mean, your basic gun around here, you can barely get off 10 rounds in probably 10 seconds. So it's a very powerful weapon. We also have different types of missiles for shooting down other airplanes. A lot of our missions over Iraq or over Bosnia, we patrol the skies, just set up an orbit, and if the enemy planes come into our airspace that we own, they can be shot down. Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead.
What they got number behind, like, they call it F-16,
Okay, the F means it's a fighter, so if it's F-16 or F-15 or F-18, those are just the different numbers that the manufacturer came up with. And there's also aircraft out there like the B-52 and the B-1. Those are bombers. That's the reason they have the B in front of them. Cargo planes have a C in front of them, like C-141, C-5, and attack planes have an A in front of them, so A-10. Does that answer your question?
What range do you have before refueling?
It varies. It depends on what you're carrying on the airplane. If you're a clean airplane, your fuel flow rate's probably going to be around 2,500 pounds per hour, and if you're clean, then you're only going to have about 7,000 pounds of fuel. So that's probably close to 3 hours you could probably fly. At an airspeed probably around 450 knots, ground speed probably 500 miles an hour. So close to, when we go cross country, like on a training, like on a weekend to go snow skiing or something, to get training on the way out there, we can usually fly about 1,000 miles is about what we plan on, so we have the extra gas for if there's bad weather and that kind of stuff. Now the more things you place on the airplane, you put bombs, you put missiles, you put extra fuel tanks, the fuel flow rate increases. Usually it's around 4,000 pounds an hour, so but you're carrying around 12,000 pounds, so you can still kind of go about the same distance. You have to have more gas for all the different things you carry. When we deploy overseas, say to Saudi Arabia, we usually fly behind a tanker airplane, which is a KC-10, which is the same as a DC-10 airliner, like Delta or United or any of the airlines fly. And it's got a big boom on the back of it, and you've got a man inside the airplane and he's flying this boom. You pull up right behind the other airplane and he sticks this boom into the back in a little nozzle area we have, and he pumps fuel into your airplane. So if we've got to go overseas, that's how we do that. When we do that, we have to refuel about every 30 minutes because we want to keep all our tanks full. So in case we had to divert to an emergency airbase, in case the fuel tanks didn't feed for some reason, or if we had some kind of emergency, then we'd have enough gas to get some. Put your hand up.
When you were around, did you ever see somebody like get, like in a wreck or get shot?
No, I haven't witnessed one yet, and I don't want to. It happens. It's a dangerous business, but it's a very highly disciplined job, it takes a lot of preparation. We can spend probably 8 or 9 hours in one day just to go fly for an hour, because you got to plan your mission, you got to brief it, then you go out to the jet, you start up early to make sure everything's working right. So we work really hard to be safe and disciplined and make sure accident rates are decreased.
Have you ever blown up?
No, I've flown combat missions over Iraq, but we didn't drop any bombs on them. I haven't done that yet, no.
About how big is one F-16?
F-16 is a real small airplane. It's 32 feet the wingspan, and I'm not sure exactly the length of it, but it's probably about 70 feet long. It's a very small fighter jet, and for that reason it's very hard for the enemy to see us when they're in the air, and when you're looking up from the ground, it's also difficult to see us. We're painted gray, so on a cloudy day like today, it'd be very hard to see us. When you're in the 5th grade, you learn all the things that you need to learn to get to the 6th grade and so forth. You're doing the stair-step method upward. So that's the same way when you start out learning to fly. And then once you get into the F-16, you've got radars, you've got all these things you've got to deal with. And also, you might be getting shot at, so you got to learn how to deal with that. You had a question?
What jet you flying now?
The F-16, the one I just showed you there.
How long does it take to school to start flying?
Okay, well, first of all, you got to be an officer in the United States Air Force, so it takes 4 years of college, and so you have to have a college degree. And there's 3 different ways to become an officer in the Air Force. You can either go through ROTC, through the college, like say Auburn or Georgia Tech, or you can go to the Air Force Academy, which is out in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Can you go there?
And that's a school, and once you graduate there, they commission you as a second lieutenant in the Air Force, or you can go to officer training school after you graduate college. Pilot training is basically 1 year, and then F-16 training was another 8 months. So the time from you graduate in college to the time you're a pilot in the Air Force flying F-16 is about 2 years. Once you're just a basic pilot in the F-16, then you go to your first assignment, and it takes about 6 months after that of training to get you mission ready where you can go off to war.
Did you fly
Over what?
over
Hogansville? I've never flown over Hogansville. I was stationed in North Carolina, and a few times we came down this way and overflew the West Point area just to do it.
Just so you could come over my house.
To come over and scare my mother.
Have you ever had to eject from your jet when you got shot?
No, I haven't. I've had several friends of mine that had to do that, and it's not a very pleasant experience. It's something you don't really want to ever do. But it's there, and it's a safe procedure. Go ahead.
When you're running the airplane, what's all that stuff on your face for?
Okay, you wear a helmet for one to protect you from, you bank a lot and you roll upside down. I mean, the jet's it's not an airline flight, so you wouldn't have an in-flight meal and you wouldn't have a cup of coffee, because if you roll upside down, it'd spill out. So you wear a helmet to protect you from the canopy. Sometimes you're banged around inside. It also protects you if you have to eject out of the airplane. We also wear an oxygen mask because when we're up high, we have to have oxygen. The airplane's pressurized up to 8,000 feet, but in case you've lost your pressurization, you need to have the mask there already against your face to protect you from altitude sickness. It's also got a microphone in there, so if you need to talk on the radio or talk to your flight lead or wingman, we usually go out in 2 ships or 4 ships so you can talk between all the different airplanes. Sometimes you take your mask off just to relax your face a little bit, because it gets kind of old wearing a mask. But you never take your helmet off.
What's he doing?
What happens if you had your mask on and
if you were up high and you lost your pressurization in the airplane and you didn't have any oxygen, then you would you'd start losing your vision first, color vision, and you'd start seeing in black and white. And then as time, and you feel kind of sleepy, and as time goes on, you'd pass out.
What if you had to eject in a different country? How would you get there?
Well, if you were over enemy territory, there's escape and evasion plans that you memorize before you go out and fly over the enemy territory. There's different pickup points where you might go. After you graduate pilot training, they send you to a survival training course where you learn how to survive out in the woods for up to a week. You go out for a week and in a group, and you survive on the land. You learn how to make traps. You learn how to eat different plants and insects and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like a Boy Scout thing, but it's kind of a grown-up Boy Scouts, and it's no fun. Then you go back and you go through a lot more classes into what to do if you get caught by the enemy. And they treat you like a prisoner for about 2 or 3 days. And they interrogate you, they put you in little boxes, and it's not a fun thing to do either. But so you're trained to know how to escape and evade, and then you know what to do if you also get caught.
I didn't know they tell the story about doing drugs to get in.
Because it's on the application, and they do drug test on you to see if you've ever done it before, and you also have to sign your name saying you've never done it before. And then even once you're in the Air Force, you have a drug test probably every 6 months or so. I've had probably 5 in the last 10 years. They randomly do that to test you for drugs.
What if the enemy just attacked you for no reason?
The what?
If the enemy attacked you for no reason, would you start shooting back?
If we were in a state of war, yes, you would.
It's almost time. Tell them what the patches are, and then.
Okay, the patch here usually has your name. On this patch here, it also is spelled in Korean underneath my name, because I'm going to Korea and the Korean people so they can read your name. These are pilot wings here. This is just a little decoration of an F-16, the silhouette of it. This patch here means the command that you're in. I'll be in the Pacific Air Forces Command. So this, in the United States, would be the Air Combat Command. So the patches here are different. The patch on your right arm is your squadron that you're going to. I'm going to the 80th Fighter Squadron, and their mascot is a headhunter from New Guinea. So this is a little headhunter man with teeth and little things through his nose and so forth. And over here is usually the wing patch for the organization that you're in.
Why are they Velcroed on?
The Velcro, you would take off your patches before you go fly for several reasons. One, it reflects off the canopy inside the airplane, so you'd have all these reflections everywhere. And two, if you are flying into combat and you got shot down for some reason, you don't want the enemy to know which unit you were assigned to. Any other questions?
Where would they find it?
What's
Their
this?
patches.
Fine.
Oh, they just leave them in the
Yeah, you take off your patches and you leave them back in your locker.
Just re-emphasize that studying
So,
and everything right now.
if you've got time afterwards, I've got some pictures to look at. I got some maps. I'll leave the maps here. You guys can have them. I circled Hogansville on the map. And so just to re-emphasize what I just talked about, no matter what you're going to do in life, you know, put all your effort into it. Start young, right now. Learn how to use your computers. Stay off drugs. Try to make A's, at least A's and B's throughout your school, and then try to pick a good school to go to and work hard in college. It doesn't get any easier in life, believe me. So the harder you work while you're young, and the less you're in trouble, the better off you're going to be in the future. That's all I got, so thank you guys. These
child. What's up? What's up? Get away, good Lord of mercy.
It takes a lot of work, a lot of study. Probably go to school for like 8 hours a day. Cassio's a database, got a calculator.
I'm going to have my grandbaby. You want to take it down there and do it? You know
I don't know how to do it. Will you show me after school?
Once you get it set up to the stage,
From New Guinea?
see now you have to have an extension cord, you know.
Okay, well, I've got one. I can get a big one at home. This is good.
But see, this has to go down there and you have to take the TV down there.
So you going to real?
You know, if I know that, you know, I can bring that.
I would, Charlotte Battery 77 for that.
That's fine. I just wanted to come.
Up in, from the DMV area.
About, Tunnel Center.
They're going to do it again.
Yeah. I won't be up there, I'll be down.
I don't know whether they'll, you know, because you have to set your camera, this camera up, you know.
I'll be down,
But yours would be easy.
Mine'll be on the shoulder. Yeah, mine'll just be on the
I've been there before.
You know how to work one of those, don't you?
Yeah, I've
It's
got
gotten a lot better.
before and used
Since
hers
the Olympics, the roads
Well, just
are
bring your tape.
better.
And,
It's still, you know, backwards,
Yeah.
not like here.
okay, you have to
Yeah, I was over there.
cold.
They hit an incident, it was 2 off.
Mm-hmm.
I was over there. I hit 9 days left in the country. Well, we hit 2 off. 2 off over there. Yeah, North Korea.
We've got to get this downstairs.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's over here.
Okay.
Did you see any of his film?
No,
You didn't get this
I'm too busy delivering paper.
Do you want to sail over here at that airport?
I gotta get this now, I gotta get busy.
I've got to get busy too.
Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you have a nice tour over there.
Thanks.
So what you playing? You playing
F-16?
16?
Yeah.
That's why I'm showing you.
I'll show the picture right there. Oh, yes, this is the cockpit picture right here. And is it like the radar scope and the instruments and stuff? This picture's on this right there. This is in Korea right here, when I was over there before. This is over Iraq, and
This is refueling.
Yeah.
this is what we carried over in
Hazel, this is refueling right here. I didn't know you didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
No, here they are refueling right here. Come stand over here. I've
No,
never,
watch
see,
out.
I've never, that's the fueling plant, then they refuel.
Well, I've never seen you.
He's got some movies of refueling. These are missiles.
Yeah, that's over Iraq.
What is this? This
Nothing
over
out there.
there. Looks like a moon.
Desert there.
Desert. This is over
What
Thailand
was
here.
that?
Wake Island on the way over.
What's that? Cherry
That's where a
tree?
big World War II battles were fought. It's a beautiful island.
Is this y'all? In town.
These are just pictures where they gotta take us while we're out there. This is F-15.
I wouldn't either. He couldn't tie me in. He's got that shark's mouth on it. But now you're not a shark mouth on it. That's over the flying tigers.
That's it.
Before they're saying, you couldn't harm me.
Yes, it's Scott O'Grady.
Oh, that's one that was down in, yeah.
They were all in Korea together. Thank goodness it wasn't me.
I'd be a millionaire.
Well, if it
Just
had
not
been
now,
me,
become a millionaire.
honey,
And retire.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
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 Oh, well, I was gonna get the pig shot. You told
Okay,
me wait till
uh,
after it was over.
Does this gotta go downstairs?
Wait just a minute, let me,
So
Okay.
you gotta check it out?
You guys can check this map.
Crescent wrench, pedal spinner, third hand, fourth hand.
What's the matter, Robert? Aren't 2 hands enough?
Well, see, it's really very simple. I need the third hand to attach the braking cable to the yoke, the pedal spanner to detach the pedal from the crank arm, and the crank extractor to extract the crank arm from the bottom bracket axle.
Oh, I see. It's all a part of getting your bike in shape, right?
Right.
But when it's time to get my mind in shape, I just turn to a tome, a treatise, a monograph, or an enchiridion.
What do you mean?
Reading material. There's nothing like reading when it's time for a little mental exercise. And if you like The Tortoise and the Hare, then here are some others you might enjoy. But you don't have to take my highfalutin phraseology for it.
Hello. My name is Mary Beth. I'm just doing some exercises to keep in shape. Can you do them? Well, here's a book that can show you how. It's called Albert the Running Bear's Exercise Book. It's about two bears, Albert and Violet. Albert needs to get into shape. They make a deal that Albert will do his exercises and Violet will show him how. The book has lots of pictures of exercises in it. Knee bumps, rock and roll, super stretch, and runner's reach. I really like this book. It's a great book to keep in shape with. Even adults should read it so they could keep in shape too.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Nick Dramsup here, and I like books about animals and funny books very, very much. I just read a book called Hooray for Snail by John Stadler. I thought Hooray for Snail was a very good book. I enjoyed it. You know, ordinarily, you don't find snails on baseball teams because they're sort of slow, you know? Well, this snail is the batter, and he gets up to bat, and he wallops that ball right to the moon, and it goes, and it hits the pyramids. And all that time, he's trying to get around the bases just once. I think Hooray for Snail is a terrific book. I would advise you to go to your public library and pick it up. This book showed me it doesn't matter if you're 2 inches tall. You can do anything you put your mind to, and that's a fact.
Hi, guys and dolls. My name is Misty Jones, and I'm here to tell you about an exciting contest which can prove that men can do almost anything that women can do. It's an exciting book called Sam Johnson and the Blue Ribbon Quilt. The most important people in the book are Sam Johnson and his wife, Sarah. One day, Sam saw a hole in a pig's pen. He took some of Sarah's scrap pieces and mended together while she was out of town. Then he said, this looks pretty neat. I think I should join Sarah's quilting club. Well, the women say there's no room for a man to be bumbling things up. And then the contest begins. By the end of the contest, the quilt looks a little different than anyone planned. I think you should read this book because if you learn to work together, you might get something a little different than you planned.
Okay, welcome everyone to the first annual Rainbow Mini Classic. Okay, we expect you all to follow the rules that you've been given. We expect you to stay to the right of the center line. Don't try and face onto opposing traffic. We want you to obey the laws. If a policeman is to tell you anything, stop you for a signal, you are to obey that policeman. Expect this to be a fair race. We want you to do your best. Timers, are you ready?